Hey, thanks for clicking on this video. This is Disciple Retro coming at you with Retrow's Rants and Raves. And today we are sharing the interview from a couple years ago that we did for Disciple Live TV. This video was definitely, I apologize that the quality couldn't be any better for you guys, but pulling it off of Facebook and sharing it with you guys here on the YouTube platform, not much we can do about the resolution, but it is chocked full of wisdom and tidbits of club history. And I think that if you watch it all the way through, you're going to really pick up on a lot of the club history. If you're interested in Disciple Christian Motorcycle Club, definitely go check out our Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all that good stuff. But yeah, definitely wanted to post this interview up because we get a lot of guys all the time that are new to the organization, and I might not get a chance to talk to all of you. But this was a interview that we did a couple years ago, and I hope you enjoy it and learn a little bit. Drop a comment below if something stands out to you as far as club history or something you didn't know or something that you learned. So appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and there should be a button around here somewhere. I think might be on this side. Who knows? Anyway, it's there. Appreciate y'all being here, and tune in for more great content from Retrow's Rants and Raves.
Hey, this is Prospect Don. Welcome to Disciple TV. I hope everybody's ready for a good time tonight. We have Prospect Pony Boy and the very, very awesome Vice President of the club, Disciple Retrow. Hope everybody's doing good. Make sure you get your questions going down in the chat. Remember that it's about a 30-second or so delay on getting everything to us, but we will see those questions, do our best to answer some of those, and we're looking forward to a good night. How you doing tonight, Disciple Retro?
Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
We're really looking forward to a good conversation tonight. I know that we've got several questions that ready to go, and we've got looks like we've got people starting to log on now, starting to chime in. So just very quickly, guys, as you're coming on board, if you're tuning into this after we do this live, thanks so much for checking us out. This is Disciple Christian Motorcycle Club, and if you got any questions, you can always message us here on Facebook, and the guys will get back to you as soon as possible. As we got guys rolling in live, remember guys, you can interact with us. We're going to do our best to answer those questions, to get to those. Pony Boy is going to be monitoring the feed there, and we're going to be doing our best to do that. So, Pony Boy, you there, buddy?
I sure am.
All right, man. Why don't you kick us off, Pony Boy? I know you had a couple good questions for Disciple Retro, and we want to honor his time and respect that. And why don't you kick us off with a couple of those questions you got?
Well, yeah, thank you very much, Disciple Retro, for being here with us today. So I'm showing a picture here. You were one of the founding four of Disciple Christian Motorcycle Club.
Yeah.
And this was one of the first pictures of you guys all together after founding Disciple Christian.
Yeah, the very first, in fact.
Right, yeah. Right. So what were your thoughts for this club
originally? We when I first started hanging out with James, I didn't really know what to think or expect. All I knew was at that point, I had been riding motorcycles for almost about 2 years, and I had talked my good buddy that I had grown up with, Disciple Rubble, into letting me teach him how to ride a bike one night. And then the next day he went out and bought his. So we spent about three hours the night before he went and bought his bike, learning how to ride on a cul-de-sac. And so we just fell in love with riding and enjoyed riding together. Like I said, he and I were pretty much best friends, and just try to do as much as we could, go riding as often as we could. And I fell in love with it. I guess I got the bite, so to speak, the motorcycle bite, and just had that desire to get out and ride all the time. Had a bike for 6 months that I was borrowing from my brother while he was out of the country. And then whenever he came back home, I was like, well, I can't live without one now. So 18 years old, I believe, I went and bought my first motorcycle, a little Honda 600. So we met James through just I guess it was just destined that we were supposed to meet, and we started hanging out, started riding a little bit together, started hearing about James' vision for the club, and reading the site that he had already kind of set up and established. And we got to learn a lot about motorcycle clubs. I hadn't really been around any motorcycle clubs. My dad rode a bike growing up. He used to race enduros and whatnot, and so bikes have somewhat kind of been in the family, I guess, but not motorcycle clubs. So that was a new thing to me. I think like the second season of Sons of Anarchy had just come on, and but we were still trying to like meet some bikers, and so we started going to some A-Bait events together, and just kind of trying to feel out the area in terms of who was here and who we needed to maybe talk to about getting a club started. But the process for me was a lot of just learn how to ride in formation. I'll never forget riding side by side with James for the first time. It was just one afternoon we rode down to somewhere in Georgia and just had a really nice ride. We called it the Sunset Run, I believe, and rode down to Sunset, Georgia. And just a great ride down some back roads. And on the way back, we get done eating dinner, and he had actually just performed, grabbed their open mic with his guitar and played some praise and worship right there in the restaurant. And I think somebody ended up buying us dinner. But coming back, he's like, "So have you ever ridden side by side with somebody?" And I hadn't. And he kind of very briefly explained these are some signals that we use or that you use to communicate while you're riding down the road. And I ride right here, you ride right here, and that's how we do it. We're just side by side like this. And so it was just turning nighttime and riding down these country back roads in Georgia and side by side. And I remember the whole time just thinking, this is awesome, and I really don't want to go off the road right now. So I held on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just blasting, before disciple speed was disciple speed. It was whatever speed we were doing, I guess. And so we had a good time, and fortunately stayed on the road that trip, and felt some rough patches on the ledge a few times, I think. But after that, I was hooked, man. I was like riding in formation, just a totally different level of trust that it takes with the person that you're riding next to, and just a totally different feeling. Just this incredible connection that you get from riding next to somebody, and just kind of it's like your brain waves sync up almost. It's pretty neat. Just kind of that feeling that you get just having somebody ride next to you.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that about the first person that you rode side by side with. One of the instructional videos that we have that teaches us prospects how to ride, James actually touts that, as of today, you are still the only person that actually does what he tells you to do and does it without a fault, and he doesn't have a problem with this. So, it's kind of funny that you even mentioned that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So have you seen the vision of this club change since you guys founded this back in 2009?
I've seen it go in a lot of ways from we just want to be bikers and Christians and see how those two things mesh, and that molding over time into what it is today. So when we first started, we didn't even have a mission statement, I don't think, for the first year, almost, maybe more. It was around about a year and a half that we sat down one night and actually wrote down the mission statement and worked through, okay, what is exactly, what does God want us to do? And so it's been a process. It's been a very much a process of God just molding and shaping the club, I think, into what he wants it to be. So it's been really neat to be a part of since day one. But at the beginning, like I said, there was really just this idea that we wanted to reach non-Christian bikers and specifically 1%ers, and that we wanted to get to know them, hang out with them, build relationships so that we could have access to speak into their lives whenever they had a situation come up where they needed prayer or just, some wisdom. Everybody could use some wise words here and there. So it's definitely evolved, I would say, in a lot of ways from the beginning, and just continually gotten better and better over time. We've aged like a fine wine, you could say. We're not the same club that we were a year ago. We're not the same club that we were 2 years ago. So we keep kind of pushing to sharpen ourselves and to seek God's will more and more, and just to figure out what kind of club He wants us to be. So it's definitely come a long way since day one. We were kind of rough and rowdy back then. If any of the viewers kind of knew our history, we were not who we were today. We're so much holier today, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. But we figured out a few things. We figured out how to. I don't know that we figured out too much. We're still pretty much the same people that we were, but God's done a lot of work in our lives as individuals.
Still in progress.
Yep. It's been a great friend and mentor of mine who just recently actually passed away. Always referred to the Christian walk as stumbling forward, where you get a few steps forward and then you just, you trip and make mistakes, and then you just get back up and keep pressing forward. So I would say it's gone a lot like that.
That's good. Actually, I maintain a small blog called stumblingsaint.com, and same kind of idea. One of my favorite songs there too. Look that song up. For everybody that's tuning in right now, we're so excited to have you guys here. This is Disciple TV. We've got several viewers coming on board. Welcome, guys. If you got questions, we're going to do our best to get those questions out to Disciple Retro. Try our best to answer some of those as we go. So keep those coming in the feed. Thanks so much for tuning in. And if you're catching this after the broadcast, thanks again, guys, for being here and listening too. Speaking of vision and how the club has kind of grown and morphed a little bit, Disciple Retro, do you have any advice for charters to maintain that original vision of the club? What would be some pointers for individual charters to think about, especially for us prospects as we're coming along?
Yeah.
What do we need to do to maintain the integrity of the club?
Sure. So the big things for us, obviously, we've got the tools that God's given us, like the 4 legs, the mission statement, the 4 questions. All of these things are like the keys to what it takes to be a successful disciple, I would say. As far as some things that you can do to maintain the integrity of who we are as disciple, in a lot of ways, I just think back of kind of how we operated when we were first starting out. Before there was a ton of politics to worry about, before there was a ton of protocols to worry about, before there was kind of all these things, it was, at the foundation, at the core of it, it's a brotherhood. And in order to maintain a solid brotherhood, there's some things that we've got to make sure that we do. The biggest of which, and oftentimes one of the easiest to neglect, and talks about the Church of Acts in the Word, where they had everything in common. They were always getting together. They shared meals together. They were just like this family of believers. This group of people was just always doing stuff together, and it's so easy to get caught up in the busyness of doing other people's runs. And just about every weekend in South Carolina, at least, there's a different event going on. So there's always something going on. So in all of that busyness of being in a motorcycle club and getting all these runs and having a job and a family, it's difficult to continue to meet together, and that's one of I believe the most core things to maintaining the integrity of disciple is to continue to get together, continue to grow your relationships with the brothers around you. Without doing that, the brotherhood itself just falls apart, and you just start to grow distant from the other guys in your charter. And so I would just say, keep grabbing lunch together as often as you can. We had a lot of time together riding and going on trips to the mountains, and just about very regularly we'd take off for the weekend, and we were a lot more flexible back then. Didn't have a whole lot of young kids around, or spouses that wouldn't go with us, or anyway. So we had just an incredible amount of freedom back then. I was a single guy, in my 20s, and just could do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted. So it was a lot easier. Had less responsibilities, I'll say, less things to take care of back then. So it was a lot easier to just take off for a weekend and go to the mountains and go camping and riding together. But it's those 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning conversations around the campfire that really just bring you closer together. And there's just, those are the moments where brotherhood is forged at 2 in the morning. And as guys, we have a hard time getting past all the silliness and all the jokes that we want to tell each other, and getting down to serious stuff and really getting to know each other on a deep level. I mean, there's just so much cutting up that has to take place, and so much silliness and shenanigans that you got to get through before you can have a serious conversation, I think.
Break down some of those walls sometimes.
You've got to exhaust all the airsoft ammo on your prospects.
Yeah, right.
Actually have a good conversation with them.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
That's great. Allegedly. Did you hear that, Pony Boy? Prospects and airsoft guns?
That's good. We talk a lot about brotherhood. Like you were just mentioning, we talk a lot about brotherhood. What piece of advice would you give to charters that are actually struggling with building brotherhood now?
Yeah. Boy, I will say we had a unique experience at the leadership weekend where we got together. We had communion together. We ate together. We spent time in praise and worship together. Those are some things that you can do to really build brotherhood. Look at what the word says about how Jesus washed his disciples' feet. Definitely a humbling experience, and something that I think is a great thing for us to do as men. Humility is not necessarily like usually a strength for most men, I think, and that was one of the things that I definitely saw really help bring our leadership closer together. Definitely, spending time together, eating meals together, spend time in worship together. And then spend time definitely sharing, what you're struggling with, what you're going through. Share your sins. Like we want to know our brothers on a deep level, so that we kind of know, like, if something's off, we can tell. These days, me and James are just like, we can just look at each other and know what each other's thinking. I mean, just because we've spent years around each other and working through stuff together. And so, like, we don't even have to have a full conversation just to know what each other's like. Okay. I get what you're thinking here. I'm picking up what you're putting down. So those are some things that I would say you need to do as a charter. Get out and go freaking ride. Go ride your motorcycles together, for crying out loud. This is a motorcycle club. We can do that, and it's wonderful. But so often, like I said, it's just so busy with riding season and having a poker run every Saturday and every Sunday, and they're just, you got to make time for those relationships. The strongest relationships that you're going to have are the ones that you nurture the most. And so if there's a brother in your charter that you don't have as strong a relationship with, that's the person that you need to go and say, hey man, let's grab dinner or let's grab lunch. get some one-on-one time with them, because your charter's only going to be as strong as the relationship between the brothers in that charter. And if there's one guy that you just like more than the other guys, then that's probably somebody. Hey, you already got a good relationship with that guy. You need to go spend some time with some of the other bros and get to know them better too. So.
Yeah, you mentioned that to get out and ride and do runs. We've had quite a few runs recently. In fact, we have at least pretty much one run every month somewhere in
crazy.
Disciple
so
Nation, isn't it? It really is. Like just
even one Disciple, yeah. There's like one a weekend.
Just earlier this month, we actually had the Midwest Gathering out in Ohio. I was able to make it to that. It was amazing, great time. We have Daytona release coming up here shortly. In the next couple of weeks in Florida.
Nice. Daytona, March 17 through 19.
We also actually have a very large event coming this upcoming weekend. We've been chosen to be interviewed by an HBO show called Vice. Tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, Vice is a subsidiary of HBO. They're Vice News, I guess they call it. They've got 6 million followers on their Facebook page, so a huge audience that they have.
Wow.
And from what I've seen, they kind of go to an area, and we like what we've seen on some of their interviews. They pretty much go in and let whoever they're interviewing tell their own story. And so we'll have an opportunity to get in front of a very large audience, which is wonderful, and just share kind of who we are and what we're all about. Share some of our stories, and just have them come and follow us around while we're riding and hanging out together. So they pretty much get to come see what it's like to be at a Disciple weekend. We got guys from several different charters coming into town for it, so it should be a pretty great time, and it should be a lot of fun. So it'll be definitely great to get to have some time in the wind with the bros from some other states, and just get to hang out and have some fellowship, man. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you. You guys are coming?
Yeah, we're coming. I'll be there. I can't wait.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then I will actually be coming down to Daytona in 2 weeks, so looking forward to that.
Nice.
Right on.
Well, we're leaving my house around 3 a.m. and meeting up with the other guys. It's going to be a long day, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We can't wait. We can't wait. So I just want to take a moment just to address everybody that's come on board. We've got a lot of viewers right now. We're very excited you guys are here, and we want to address some of your questions. Ponyboy, have you had an opportunity to look up any of the questions that are coming through?
Yeah, I have. So we've got a couple asking about charters that we have in certain areas. We will be getting back to you guys on that. We'll have our national set band reach out to you on all of those. But we do have some locations in Canada. I've seen a lot of people wanting to know about Canada. We do have charters. So somebody's asking here, how do you make your first initial contact with the 1%ers in your area?
Well, you got to find out where they're at and kind of where they hang out. For us, it was at a kind of public event. We were able to meet some people and talk to them and figure out kind of who we needed to go speak with. We were very fortunate to have another Christian organization kind of help us make those introductions. So that was definitely wonderful to have, because we had no idea. We're like, hey, who's the guy? And he's like, oh, I think I know. You can talk to this guy and then talk to that guy, and eventually maybe you get in front of who you're supposed to talk to. So it's a process, and we try to go about it in a respectful way. And we definitely want to honor the history of these clubs that we're trying to minister to, and show respect to them. We definitely got a lot of respect for those organizations and who they are, and where how they've forged the path for motorcycle clubs. And so you definitely don't gain access to minister to somebody by being disrespectful. So we go about things the right way and go through the process and meet who we're supposed to meet. And sometimes it takes a while, but you'll get there. So if that's a concern or something that you're nervous or anxious about, then definitely talk to your set man or talk to the president of the next state over, something like that. We've got plenty of guys that have been there and worked through the process, and we'll help you along with that.
Great. So Disciple Retro, another question that had come up, and kind of would go along these same lines here, about contacting the 1%, I believe. The question was asked, will Disciple ever have claim a state? Will Disciple ever claim a state on the bottom rocker?
No, our bottom rocker will always say Christian. So we claim ownership of Christ. We're part of Christ. So no, we won't ever run a state rocker. We don't claim territory. We have charters in different areas, and sometimes we refer to those charters as, this is the South Carolina charter, or this is the Florida charter, or whatever. But it's not claiming territory. It's just saying where these guys are from. So no, we won't ever run a location rocker.
Okay. So Disciple Christian Motorcycle Club. And so out of all of motorcycle ministry, motorcycle groups and clubs and what have you, and knowing that God's using a lot of different groups out there, why are you still with Disciple CMC, or what do you think keeps you here? What do you think sets DCMC for you?
Yeah, for me, I would definitely say the mission, to disciple men every day of the word and prayer time, to support the 1% world with prayer. There are some phenomenal Christian organizations out there, and we've got tremendous respect for the ones that have paved the way for us, like Bikers for Christ. We wouldn't be anywhere without guys like that have gone before us and done what we set out to do. There are some differences, I think, with Disciple. There are some strengths that we have, and none of this is to say that there are just blatant weaknesses in other Christian organizations. Everybody's got their different strengths, but we spent some time looking at kind of what our strengths are as a club during our leadership weekend. Number one, we had a leadership weekend, so that was phenomenal. I'd highly recommend that to any other Christian organizations out there. Get your leadership together, get them to spend time with each other in prayer and fasting and praying together and worship together. That was an incredible time. That was definitely something that we needed as a club. And so, we've definitely got some really cool tools that God has given us, the mission statement being the biggest one of those. But dedication to the brotherhood, dedication to the men around you, I think is just a biblical concept that I was very fortunate to learn through being a part of another church small group, and just had some really good mentors there that kind of showed me for the first time what community and what brotherhood looked like. And so I got to see a really, really cool picture of that. And just something I guess I learned really early on is that we look after our brothers. We don't leave our brothers. Your brothers, you stick by their side. You care for them through thick and thin. And when you're upset about them, you work through it. If they do something that hurts your feelings, you get through it. You work through it. We confess our sins to one another so that we can be healed. Both sins, against that brother. If you got a problem with your brother, you go to that brother. Or else darn sure I'm going to tell him he's got something against you, and you got 24 hours to contact him and work that out. And so we've got a unique way that we handle conflict that I think is vital to the success of our organization, and something that I think a lot of organizations would benefit from is no text conflict. If you got a problem with a brother, you go to that brother. You don't go, sowing seeds of dissension among the other brothers. The other strengths I would say is our humility and our submission to the mission that God's called us to. So humility, isn't really something that you necessarily think would be a strength. But like I said, when you can humble yourself, and that starts, I think, in a lot of ways with service, serving the other brothers around you, which is something that we, is a core of the way that we train our prospects. Prospecting is a time where you're learning to serve the men around you, and figuring out what it looks like to be a humble servant. Jesus was that. Jesus was that humble servant. Even when he knew somebody was out to get him within his own, his boys, like his inner circle, he knows one of these days this dude is going to do me wrong, and he still didn't show any indifference to him. He still loved that brother in spite of the fact that he knew that brother's going to be a headache sometimes, and that brother's going to, treat me badly sometimes, and all these things. In spite of all of that, I think we have a really good strength in our commitment to the guys around us. We don't leave our brothers behind. It's like the military, no brother, no soldier left behind. And even when they're doing their own thing or walking down a path that they shouldn't walk down, it's our job to go and gently restore them and or say, dude, quit doing what you're doing, and drag them up out of whatever they're going through, So I think those are some of our strengths, and we've definitely seen some clubs coming. I will say this: the devil does not like what any of us are doing, and so if there have been clubs in your area, Christian ministries in your area, we've seen several in South Carolina, and it breaks my heart. It really, really hurts to see when a Christian club falls apart. You've got dissension among the brothers. You got people at each other's throats over petty stuff or money issues or whatever the case may be. The devil is after Christian clubs. He doesn't want us to exist. He doesn't want us to do what we're doing, and he's going to do whatever he can. He tried to snuff Disciple out, and at this point, it's just a snowball, and there's nothing he can do about it. But even today, even these days, we see him just picking at our leadership and just trying to get us at each other's throats and frustrated and just over stupid stuff. But so it, like I said, it just breaks my heart to see other Christian organizations not succeeding in ministry. But I've come to an understanding that that's the enemy's game plan, is that's what he's trying to do behind the scenes. He's working day in, day out, 24/7, figuring out ways he can tear down these ministries. And, and so we pull together, we pull our ranks together, and we keep fighting that. We fight on our knees in prayer, daily for our brothers. And we stand firmly against the attack of the enemy.
That's a great word right there. Hey, prospect, I'm Pony Boy. Sorry about that, man. I'm not supposed to call you a prospect since I'm a prospect. Please forgive me.
What are you doing? Call that
there.
prospect.
Hey, I'm so nervous to be talking to the VP of Disciple Christian Motorcycle Club. I can't stand it.
Well, and you saw that James Johnson just joined too.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did.
Famous. Oh my goodness, the Pope right there. Hey, there he is.
That picture.
We'll show that picture for him.
There he is. Very nice. Hey, Pony Boy, I'm going to ask this Disciple Retro another question. Could you look through some of our chats right there on Facebook and see where we're at? Thanks, buddy. Disciple Retro, this is my favorite of all questions to ask anybody. No matter where we're at, can you just share with us how you came to faith in Christ? Like, what were some of the circumstances, situations around you when you trusted Jesus as your Savior?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a drug baby. Mom and Dad drug us to church. Just about every time the doors were open. And so I grew up in the church. I remember specifically when I was about 7 years old, having, I would say, an encounter with God for the first time, and praying to receive Him as my Lord and Savior, but my life didn't necessarily begin to reflect that until much later. Through college, my tendency was to look to relationships to kind of fill the emptiness that I felt. That's something more that you just want. People look to all kind of things to try to make their life better. For me, that was girls, and so I spent a lot of time chasing women and in bars and whatnot. You never find the type of satisfaction you're looking for there. Just you can have as much of it as you want, and there's something at the end of the day that's just like something's still missing. And so I knew what that was kind of all along, and I just was actively rebelling and just running from Christ for the longest time. And then really it wasn't until James approached me and said, "Hey, I heard that you're a Christian and you like to ride motorcycles. And what do you think about starting this Christian motorcycle club?" And for me, that was really the turning point. That was the catalyst, I would say, for me stopping and thinking, because at the time I thought, I can still kind of live in the world and kind of still chase women and drink beer and party and have a good time and still try to ride motorcycles and tell everybody I'm a Christian. And so I'm in a lot of ways just trying to grow through that time of my life. I'm 20, 21 years old, and just trying to figure out what it looks like to be a man. And at the time I didn't really have any guy friends, and I didn't really know much about what brotherhood was like. Most of my life, the only friends that I really kept were, whatever girl I was dating at the time and her friends. And so whenever, if we'd break up, then I didn't have her anymore, and I didn't have her friends anymore. So even like the guy friends that she hung around. So I really never understood or never really knew, what it was like to have other men in my life that wanted like truly good things for me, like wanted the gospel for me and wanted Jesus for me. And so, hanging out with Rob and James, that was kind of, whenever I'll really never forget, I was chasing a girl one weekend, and then like the trip back home on my motorcycle, I'm looking down at this God is great on this side and 888 on this side, and I'm thinking like, what does it look like? What am I doing? And God's just like started downloading me like, hey man, I know, like I get it. I've been running, but I still love you, and just all this stuff, just downloading just His love to me, through this trip back home, and it was it was very much a ride back home, where God just started taking a hold of my heart again and changing some of my desires, just completely flipped a switch, literally overnight, and was like, man, God created women and they're beautiful and awesome, and they're meant to reflect God's beauty and how great God is. And, just changed my views on women. And I was like, all right, God, I'm going to start looking at women as sisters now, and not as, just objects that are there for my enjoyment. And so I quit dating. I decided I needed to take a year fast from dating. And so I did that, worked through that. Went through a recovery program where God really did a lot of work in my life. And so between the new church that I joined at that time, I was put into a life group with 5 other dudes around me. And then Disciple, I had another 6 dudes around me. And so like, it was like just a few months went from like not having anybody to having like 13 dudes around me that I could hang out with and talk to about what was going on in my life, and just be accountable to, and pray with, and hang out and ride motorcycles with. And I'm just so grateful for God just getting a hold of me again and showing me, what it really looks like to live for Him and to enjoy God's love for us and experience that in a new way. God, there was something else I wanted to mention, and if I think of it, I'll come back to that. But yeah, it definitely an incredible time of just growth and God getting a hold of me and showing me. I remember. So this is something that I've been talking about here recently. But when God takes over your life, the coolest thing ever is that as a Christian, you get to love God and do whatever you want. And I can't remember whose quote this is, but you get to love Christ and do whatever you want. The thing is, God changes those desires. The desires that I used to have, He replaces those with things that God desires. And so when you're when you're going after the things that God wants for your life, you literally, it's like the coolest thing ever. You get to love God and do whatever you want because God has made your desires His. Just the coolest thing ever. So I get to ride motorcycles and tell people about Jesus, and nothing's cooler than that, man.
Awesome.
It doesn't get any better than that. That's what's drawn me here for sure. Pony Boy, you got something for us, bud?
Yeah, got a couple things. First off, yes, I know I need a better background back here. I will be working on that, I promise.
Somebody
is yeah. No, I will be working on that.
Is that James?
I've been getting over the flu, and so I've had a very difficult time, kind of keeping everything organized. But
no excuses. Sorry.
We do have we have an interesting question here. We have one from his name's Jeff. He mentions that he's in the tri-state area in Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio, and has already spoken with I'm assuming our set man Gabriel Clausen, who's saying that the closest charter is about 2 hours away from him.
That's close, dude.
Right. That's what I was about to get at. 2 hours is not bad. 2 hours riding down somewhere is some of the best decompression time that you could possibly want. 2 hours is nothing, man. I would highly suggest that you reach out to him. Go down there and ride. Man, I'm in Florida. We've got some guys that are 8-9 hours away from each other, and we still make it to meet with those guys on occasion.
Yeah, dude. You're telling me that you don't want to go ride motorcycles to hang out with your brothers? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point, man. I hope you do, man. If you're out there still listening, I hope you jump on and make that happen. It'll be well worth your time.
It will, man.
Absolutely.
It's tough. It's not easy. Riding an hour somewhere to meet somebody you never met before, especially if you're, a little bit of an introvert. I never had that problem. I was just like, yeah, okay, let's go ride for sure. But yeah, it can be a little intimidating. But it's what it takes. You got to meet these guys. You got to hang out with them. You got to start building brotherhood somewhere, right? And so you start with meeting and hanging out and having a ride and grabbing a meal together, man. That's how it all starts.
I remember shortly after Don and I started supporting, we had this bright idea that we were going to ride on a Wednesday or Thursday from Central Florida.
It's some random day in the middle of the week.
Yeah, it was terrible. From Central Florida, and we were going to ride up to Tallahassee to have dinner with our wives on the back. And we started at the bright time of like 4:45 in the afternoon, decided to take highway, and it was terrible. It was horrible. We actually didn't end up making it there. There were so many accidents and everything. It was terrible, but we were willing to make it. It's fun.
Yeah. And you got an hour between you. If you're 2 hours apart, then you meet in the middle somewhere, and the closest Waffle House to wherever's halfway between you, and that's where you meet. So
is the Waffle House, Disciple Retro, is the Waffle House like the unofficial clubhouse, national clubhouse for?
That's where we always meet. It's always a Waffle House.
Yes. That was one of the first places that we all got together and had dinner and started talking about forming Disciple was at a Waffle House. So it's
awesome.
near and dear to our hearts, and it's also delicious. So there
Yes,
you go.
right? Can't beat that. Well, guys, we've been on live for about 45 minutes now, and we've had some great conversation here. Disciple Retro, thank you so much for taking time out from your Tuesday night.
Thank you very much.
Been a pleasure.
Us, man, you're helping us as prospects and all the other prospects in DCMC. Shout out to all my other bros there, and you're helping other people in Facebook land just to get to know Disciple a little bit better. So we're going to do our best. We're going to do this on Tuesday evenings at 10 o'clock, and that should be good to go Eastern Standard Time for the foreseeable future. Looking forward to that. But again, just Disciple Retro, thank you so much. Pony Boy, are we good to log out there? Were there any last minute questions that we want to throw out, or are we done?
No, I just wanted to reiterate that we will be getting back with all of you guys asking if there's charters nearby. You guys, a lot of these places I'm seeing, Australia, Chicago, stuff like that. Man, we got people in those areas.
That's so cool.
Absolutely.
I gotta say, it's being part of this thing from day one and just going from a couple dudes in Lexington, South Carolina to what it is today. It's just been an absolute amazing journey. And I'm just, very grateful to have been a part of it this long. So I'm going on 8 years with the club this year. That's how old the club is, and so it's been a wild ride. And
8 years and quite a different haircut, right? As we see here from this picture.
A few different haircuts, in fact. If you want to hop on board, I definitely recommend that. There's literally nothing in my life that motorcycle clubs themselves are just, if you're a biker and not in a club, then you should hop in a good one near you. But, Disciple Christian MC has definitely molded, and become a lot of who I am today. And, I'm just so grateful for, the work that God has been able to do in my life and in the men's lives around me through this club. And so, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Again, I'm Disciple Retro, National Vice President, co-founder, graphic designer, whatever it takes. I'm there. So
whatever it takes.
That's it.
Go-to man.
Yep.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. We're going to log off here. I hope you've enjoyed this time. I'm going to log us off with just a short clip from the Average Joe video that we have. You can see that. Again, if you've got questions, message us here. There at the public page there for DCMC, Disciple Christian Motorcycle Club. Look us up on the website as well. Pick up some support gear. We'd love to see you rocking some t-shirts and bumper stickers and stuff like that. It'd be awesome. Again, this is Prospect Don. Thanks so much. Pony Boy, you good?
Thank you so much, Disciple Retro. We appreciate it very much.
Thanks, guys. Ride fast, pray hard.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Wow, you're still here. Thank you so much for sticking with this video all the way through. Really appreciate you. Be sure to leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Look forward to putting out more of these videos, and God bless you today.